Good
Toronto.
morning from Toronto.
And I have to keep drinking my coffee. I'm trying to wake up. Hmm. All right.
I
I think we're
have.
ready to get this started. So, first of all, welcome everybody. And we still have people streaming in here from Malta, from Bangladesh, et cetera, et cetera. So, Sri Lanka has joined us. Anyways, welcome everybody. And welcome back. You know, we do these things every month on the last Tuesday of the month. So, look at your calendars and just take this time and make it once a month on Tuesday, last Tuesday of the month, so you can block it out, because we love to have you join us for these conversations where we get to talk to people around the world who are doing some really cool things in the world of sustainability. And, you know, everybody that I talk to, everybody that we have these conversations with, it really is all about, you know, what I always say is it's about inspiration. It's about, you know, being inspired to do something differently. We're all on this webcast this morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you are, because we want to do things better. We want to do things differently, and we want to be challenged to think differently. So this is about inspiration, and it's about education. And ultimately, as we always say, it's about action, and it's about putting the power of the white jacket, or in Michelle's case today, the black jacket, uh, you know, to work, right? So that we can not only do things differently in our work environments, but also within the society where we have impact. So, anyways, welcome everybody. And once again, you know, this is the Feed the Planet committee by World Chefs, and you know, we do everything because we have great partners. And I just want to always give a shout out to the Electrolux Food Foundation and to ISIC, because they are, and also Custom Culinary, but you know, these are organizations that we partner with. These are organizations that we work really hard on with all of the different activities that we do. So if you don't, you know, I know many of you know this, but if you want to learn more about Feed the Planet and the many different activities and how you could get involved, whether it's education, you know, for professionals, whether it's what we call Food Heroes, education about food waste for young people, whether it's about, you know, training programs for the world's, you know, desperately needy, whether it's about food waste. We have so many different initiatives, and they're only successful because we all work on them. So please consider joining us. All right, with that, I would like to introduce our chef in the black coat next to me.
Next to
So,
you.
yeah, I just love this white and black thing. We gotta do this with everybody. So I'd like to introduce Chef Michelle Adriana. Did I get that right?
Adrillana. Adrillana.
Adrillana. I'm sorry,
Oh,
Adrillana. It's really early here,
no
but
worries.
Chef Michelle is passionate about saving the environment through, you know, sustainable living, using and respecting, you know, every part of, you know, the produce, every part of the ingredients that she uses. She's a brand ambassador for Rise Against Hunger, chef partner with WWF Philippines, entrepreneur, caterer. Holy cow! You have too many commas here. Celebrity chef. She advocates for sustainable cooking, which we're going to talk about, and especially in terms of zero food waste. And most importantly, she's also mother to two beautiful children. So you didn't put
Thank
that
you.
in your bio. You got to put that in there.
Definitely. A proud mother of two kids.
So anyway, so welcome, Michelle, from the Philippines. And we're going to just jump right in here because I don't know, excuse me, I don't know if you all noticed this, but when you were checking in, there was a graphic that Lynn, our amazing Lynn in Paris, put up with your photo on it. And I just want to talk about this photo because it is probably the most unusual photo I've ever seen of any guest we've ever had on. So it's just kind of yellow circle that's being torn open, and your face is hiding underneath, and there's a mango. Talk to me about the photo real quick.
Okay, this is very symbolic. I'd like to convey a very strong message. Sustainability. It's a very, very long topic. It's a slippery slope. Um, it is very important that we all understand from the word sustain, which means we've got to use every single part of every living thing that sustains us, right? Like even the plants and the trees are all living things before we pick them. So I remember before I went to this pictorial, I specifically picked this certain mango from the fridge because, well, for some people it's flawed and it's less than beautiful, right? So I specifically picked this one out to be able to send out that message that sustainability is beyond having a perfect skin, like a perfect exterior. You've got to understand that just because something looks flawed from the outside, it doesn't mean that it's inedible rather.
I love it. Well, it was super striking, and I think this whole idea of, sometimes I think we have to do things that are a little bit eye-catching isn't the right word, but and confrontational isn't the right word, but something that really stands out, that grabs people's attention and kind of goes, huh, what's that all about? Because it's a
Yeah.
conversation starter, as it was for you and I this morning when I saw it. So
Yes.
anyways, if you didn't get a chance to see that, you can take a peek at that later.
And the
All
black
right.
freckles.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. So, Michelle, tell us a little bit about your background, because you weren't always in the food business. I mean, this isn't something you grew up doing. So just kind
Exactly.
of briefly, just to introduce yourself a little bit more to everybody who's joined us, tell us about your journey a little bit as to how you got into chefdom.
Okay, before I answer that question, I'd like to say hello to my friend Helene from Doha, Qatar. She's watching right now. Right, back to your question. I wasn't always a chef, I didn't know how to cook 13 years ago. I was a professional singer before I became a chef. And not even my dog Tango in China. I had a black dog named Tango in China who would not even eat what I cook. And the dog would whimper each time I tried to feed it with what I cook. That's how horrible it was. And then I saw Nigella Lawson on TV. And I was a heavy smoker and a heavy drinker back then because the lifestyle of being a singer, an artist, And I started to have nodules in my throat. So, it destroyed my singing voice. I was looking for a fallback. I saw Nigella Lawson and I thought, wow, she's, put a little bit of salt and pepper, stuff like that. And I thought, well, she's simply like made up and all. But then I thought I wasn't very girly like her. I'm a bit, manly. So I thought if you could put like Gordon Ramsay and Nigella Lawson together, then it's going to work for me. I want to be, for a lack of a better word, or probably for the aptness of it, I'd like to call it like I want to be a badass chef, but I still want to look presentable at the same time.
I love that. I love that. And it's, yeah, one chef in another chef's body. Beautiful. So you went to culinary school. I'm just curious.
Yes.
And then we're going to get into what you're doing now. But I didn't ask you this before, but when you were in culinary school, did you learn about sustainability? I mean, where did that light bulb go on for you?
Okay. I'm an animal lover. I grew up being an only child and I grew up with turtles, at the backyard with birds and, all that animals growing up around us. I really love animals. So because of my love for animals, I wanted to save the world through by doing my share, like probably baby steps, But sustainability back in school, that is a good question. I remember Chef Gerdmaner, he's German, and Chef Mike, and all the other chefs in Ice Camp would always tell us before that when you're handling a produce or a product, you have to learn to respect every single produce, which means if an animal died for you to sustain you, you've got to respect it by preparing it properly. You make sure that you handle it properly and that you use every single part of it and that nothing goes to waste.
Interesting. So you did learn that in culinary school, which, we have culinary instructors that always join us on these webcasts. And, I think that's such a strong message for all of you because, in education, we get to change lives. And when you're teaching, that is your opportunity to shape the next generation about, things that have to do with sustainability. All right.
Right.
So tell us today, where you're at, what you're doing. You've got a catering company, you've got, a brand, you're working on franchising, you've got delivery. I mean, holy cow, you are involved in so many things. Tell me a little bit
Oh,
about what you're doing today.
okay, we started with a catering business, of course, but as you know, the catering business took a hard hit during the pandemic since last year, so we had to put it to a stop. So, I mean, in moments like this, you've got to diversify. So I'm also an F&B consultant, so I train staff for other food businesses as well. At the same time, we focus more on deliveries, and now in the works for franchising my new venture called Pandemic, because Mick is actually a pet name which my late father used to call me. Short for Michelle, it's Mick. And because of the pandemic, I think it sends a very strong message. It's like pandemic was born out of necessity. Pan for bread, right? Because as you know, pandesal is bread with salt. So basically, this is like bread with Michelle, with my soul in it.
I love that.
Born during the pandemic.
So let me ask you, you're doing a lot of deliveries, and I've seen, here I live in, the US, and what I've seen during the pandemic is lots of deliveries because restaurants were struggling to stay in business. But I also saw a sort of disturbing trend, which was, while they were doing what they needed to do, the amount of disposables that were being, used was absolutely. I mean, I did a dinner in my home that, long story, but I mean that somebody gave me from a restaurant, and I counted the number of plastic containers for my wife and I, and it was
Yes.
35. 35 little cups and little, I mean, and I just know that most all of that in, from everybody is going straight into a, the garbage, going into a landfill somewhere. What are
Yes.
your thoughts on this?
Okay. It would be very hypocritical of me to say that we are 101% sustainable. Okay. We try day in and day out, apply the sustainability practices. We are at 80%, to be very honest. As you know, it is very rainy here in Manila. So with the delivery guys, with the riders, we've got to secure. So it's like what I was telling you and Lynn earlier. It's got to be a strike. You've got to strike a balance rather with who you are, with what you do as a chef, and what is really in your heart. What do you want to do? And that is a pretty slippery slope because at the end of the day, you've got to put so many thoughts. It's got to be thoughtful and conscientiously done. How do we deliver this food safely? Considering HACCP, the of course the hazard, the food safety guidelines, right? Hazard analysis, critical control points. I mean, those things you've got to consider it. Food safety. How do we send it to them in a way that we're still sustainable? We're still, practicing sustainability. Well, definitely we've got to use sometimes sous vide. You know, just because it's the best way to retain the form, the shape, and flavors and everything. At the same time, how do we pack it? Because as you know, even if it's BPA free, everything goes to the trash. So we try to use reusable containers, and then we also use like bamboo wrappers. And those who order from us would understand and would know that we pack our food securely, tightly, and neatly. For us, safety comes first, and of course, sustainability. That's why I said it would be too hypocritical of me to be advocating sustainability at the same time advocating, eating less meat, less animal produce at the same time doing what I do as a chef. That's why I would always say, it's a practice day in and day out. I've got a lot to learn. I am speaking about sustainability practices in ways I know best, not because I am an expert, but learning is a continuous process, and I learn from everybody else along the way.
I love that. Um, thank you, because one of the things we've talked about a lot when it comes to sustainability is this concept of a journey, right? And that is, it's not like we get to a place and we are like, hey, I'm there, I'm all good, I'm 100% sustainable.
No.
That's a lie. So I mean, and I think rather it's a continual struggle. And I think it's such a beautiful thing, Michelle, for you to say, look, we're not there yet. We're doing a lot, but we're not there yet. Because if we all take that sort of way of thinking, what that helps us do is to kind of say, all right, on the one side, we're doing great stuff. I mean, we're really, really trying. But on the other side, we still have more to go. And I think that's beautiful. So thank you, because that's, um, I think that is really the philosophy that we try to do things with. So that's great. All right, so tell me about some of the activities you're doing. So I'm just going to go down these here. So WWF, tell us about what you're doing with them.
I've done a series of Kawalikasan episodes with them for sustainability as well, using mostly plant-based recipes. Some of my recipes will be featured in their cookbook, which they will be putting out there in a couple of months, I believe. I made a chickpea sisig. In the Philippines, normally sisig is made up of cut up meat like pork and innards and all the parts of the pork, like the mass, the face, the ears, and everything else. But you want to make it plant based. So I'm also encouraging people. Sustainability is basically it is a very, very big word. It's one word, but it's a long way. It's a long journey, like what you said. Everything is related. Everything is connected. We are all connected. I mean, from sustainability to be eco-friendly to eating less meat to the, greenhouse gases and leaving less footprints. I mean, it's going to take more than just 30 minutes of our time. But go ahead.
So let me ask you about the plant-based piece in the Philippines specifically, just because
Yeah.
this is a question I don't know. So
Yeah.
you're trying to do more plant-based food. What is the reception to that? I mean, are people in the Philippines where you are, your clients, do they think it's great, or do they think it's a little strange, or what's the feedback you get?
Some people who are not open-minded would say, well, people who are eating plant-based or are vegan are hypocrites. But like what I said, it's really, really subjective. Everybody has a choice, right? And I respect their choice. Like what I said, I am a chef. I've got to prepare meat like we are selling burgers. But personally, me and my family, we're 70% plant-based. 30% is, well, mostly fish and seafood, grains, and then meat and everything else. But 70%, we mostly make it an effort to really eat less animal products,
That's
right?
great.
Uh,
That, well, and again, it's
but
not about 100% vegan. I
yes,
mean, there are, this last weekend, I ate in a restaurant that was 100% vegan, and it was
yes,
mind-blowingly delicious. Um,
definitely.
but that's not going to be for everybody. And I think this whole idea of again, the journey, of sort of replacing some meat with plant sources, and then, maybe increasing that with time. But that's really great. All right. So you are also doing work with hunger, correct?
Yes, Rise Against Hunger, Philippines.
So what does that entail for you as a chef?
They have this grains, fortified soy grains that we give out during disasters, and all these emergencies and relief goods, basically. So people would normally think and treat it like lugao or porridge because they think that's all you can do with it. So my role, that's where I come in. I make paella out of it. You can make fidea out of it. Whatever you can think of, whatever you can do with rice or pasta, you can also do with it. Um, you can make risogalo out of it. I mean, the possibilities are endless. And I think I come in because I have to make sure that they don't get bored and they don't think that we are just feeding them something just to fill them. It's not just something that's filling, but it can be something interesting as well. And I'm also here because I bring awareness to communities who thinks that if they have less ingredients or if they have very simple ingredients, that there is really nothing they can do about it. They think if they have tofu, or normally they did compare here in the Philippines. There's a very huge disparity between the middle class and the how do I put it, for the less fortunate. Um, they think, for example, beef or meat is only for those who can afford it, or fish and seafood is only for those who are rich, right? But what if, they can do something great with, let's say, surf and turf, corned beef and sardines. So Rise Against Hunger have partnered with brands with, well, canned ingredients, right? And I come in there to recreate these things to make it, to reimagine and present it to them in a way that it's more nutritious, it's more interesting, and and it makes them look forward to eating the next meal again, even with all these stuff that they have. Like probably they have one box of it, and they are gonna have to live on it for a month or so.
This is so cool because I think about something you said really struck me, which is it's not just about putting food in their stomachs. Um, we all live, I think probably safe to say all of us, wherever we are in the world, there are hunger issues, oftentimes very, very close to us. And this what you're doing, I think, is fun because what it's not just about the food, it's about giving people dignity and joy, right? I mean, eating
Exactly.
should be a pleasurable activity, and it's not just about, hey, here, just eat this because it's good for you and it'll feed your
Yes,
stomach, but it's
it will
about
fill
giving
you
them.
up.
Yeah, it's ultimately it's doing what we do as chefs, right? We bring
Yes,
good food to people to create happiness, and for us to be
yes,
able to do that in the world of hunger, that's pretty cool. Now, Michelle, you're also, as I read in your bio, you are a celebrity chef, right? So, do you use your status as a celebrity chef, somebody who's very visible, um, to work on things, or I should say, to bring people along on, sustainability efforts or hunger efforts? How do you use that platform?
okay. Number one, that celebrity chef is not self-proclaimed. It's something that they use for branding. I don't mind being called one, but I don't call myself one. It helps you influence people in a way that you've got the power to convey a message that strong for them to be, motivated and inspired to do more with so much less. Like, for example, I said I did something with the canned sardines and instant noodles. And it's something that even the rich and both the poor have in their pantries during this pandemic. And I made a sardine fidea out of it. I mean, who says that you just have to boil water and put all those noodles in there? It doesn't have to be boring. And at the same time, I also encourage everybody to use less water and repurpose water if they can, if and when they can. I mean, the pasta water doesn't have to be thrown away. All those flavors are in there. The water from boiling your rice, I mean, from washing your rice, you can make a horchata out of it, or you can make drinks and beverages out of it. Or you can, rinse your pets. If your pets are dirty, you can rinse them, or the wheels of the car. I mean, the tires of the car. You just have to be imaginative. I mean, you don't need to waste all your resources. And it's something that I'm really very passionate about.
That's great. And I like that, to be imaginative, right? To think about what's possible. And, there are people on this webcast today who have what I would say, spheres of influence, right? And some people, can influence, sort of a smaller number of people. And some people, are blessed with a voice that, carries, right? So, I mean,
Yes.
with you having that celebrity chef status, and I realize that always sounds funny. Celebrity chef always sounds funny to me. But you know what?
Yeah, yes,
Whatever
yes,
whatever
definitely.
it is, the fact is you've been given a gift, which comes with responsibility. And I think that
Yes.
to embrace that is so important. All right, before we run out of time here, I have to ask you about, just really quickly, cultural diplomacy, because I know you are very
Mhm.
much also about your ingredients as a Filipino chef, your local ingredients, and bringing those to the rest of the world, and teaching them a little bit. Just
Right.
tell us about your activities with that.
Okay. I've done cultural diplomacy projects twice in Qatar, been in Dubai, Abu Dhabi. I was in Europe in 2019, Singapore, Korea. I mean, in different regions, Bahrain. Um, the difference is that w- while while you want to be regional, and okay, I've got a disclaimer to all the Filipinos out there. I am speaking based on my world on a plate and not your grandmother's cooking, because Filipinos feel very strongly about their grandmother and their mother's cooking, and I respect that. I love my grandmother's cooking, but at the same time, when you visit a country such as Qatar, and that was the first Middle Eastern country that I visited. I don't want to be beheaded and serve them something that's haram. So when and the Filipino cuisine is mostly pork, and you can't serve that. So you want to work with lamb. You want to work while respecting the substance, the essence, and the flavors of the Filipino cuisine. It's not about betrayal. You are not betraying your country by using local ingredients. You are trying to make it work in a way that you put Filipino cuisine on a global level because you wanted to be the voice of Filipino cuisine. Because the sad part is what breaks my heart is that there are so many Filipinos all over the world. We are at the heart of the world in hospitality, in medical field, on the streets, the buildings, and mostly, the house helpers, at the tables, your dinner tables. We are at the heart of the world. And I will not forget to say it. Sorry, before we run out of time, I've got to say it to all the Filipinos, be proud of your culture, be proud of our food, and we are not going anywhere. This is not the next big thing. We are not piggybacking on the trend. Filipino food is here to stay, and we are not going anywhere. Really.
I love that.
We are
And
here
I,
to
you
stay.
know, and I think, frankly, for a lot of people around the world, embracing their local food is special. So I have, Michelle, I have some quick questions here, and I am just going through them. So there's one that I really think is fascinating, which is less about sustainability, but I think it's really interesting. And it's about this balance. I always think balance in life is the hardest thing. So, what inspires Chef Michelle every day to carry on daily cooking routine along with taking care of her family? How do you strike
Okay.
that balance?
With that balance, I don't cook every day. It is also about sustainability. Using gas every day, it is a waste of your resources. You set aside cooking once or twice a week. Even hotels and even fine dining restaurants would know this, and you don't lie because we normally would serve fresh frozen, which means, for example, let's say if you're working with risotto, you do it a day ahead and it's half cooked, and you finish it off the next day and it's still al dente. And you prepare your sauces. For example, I want to make adobo or I want to make a stew. Then I'm going to think, well, with this sauce, I can make, I could just dump fish or chicken or vegetables, blanched vegetables, and then dump it in the sauce. So it's going to be frozen. It's going to be divided into different containers. And then we're going to use it for when we need it. And it stays in there as long as your chiller is 0 to 4 and your freezer is -80 to -21 and lower.
Awesome. All right, so there's a question here that came from someone who had visited the Philippines the year before COVID, is a vegetarian, and had some real difficulties eating. And
Mm.
one of the first is just a comment that the definition of vegetarian needs to be changed. In other words, is it, no egg, no fish, no meat? What is it exactly? But I think the question here is, how do you suggest behavioral changes that can happen in the Philippines, yet delivering interesting food, even down to the local, and I don't know this word, barangay levels across the
Barangay,
nation.
barangay,
Yeah, I don't
barangay.
know that word. So,
But
but
barangays, go ahead, go ahead.
well, and so it's not just being, it's not just catering to an upper class, but and I assume barangay is like a different.
Barangay is like a small town.
Okay. All right,
Yeah.
great. So how do you do it? So how in the Philippines, how would you recommend really making vegetarian cuisine a bigger part of the diet, a bigger part of what's available?
I think we have, well, of course, it has to be the thrust of the government, number one. It's about, disseminating information. And just like Rise Against Hunger is doing, Rise Against Hunger has farms in different parts of the metro and in the provinces. And we are educating the farmers and the people who live there how to make use of what they have. For example, whatever it is you can do with beans, you can do with vegetables. For example, if you want to replace your fish with vegetables, you can make instead of using cod for your miso glazed cod, you can replace it with eggplant, right? Instead of using pork or chicken for your tonkatsu, you can replace it with tofu, with a tough kind of tofu. I mean, you just like what I said. It's basically reimagining things and planning. And how do we make it appear more appealing to the barangay level? I think we need. It's a long shot, really, because Filipinos are meat lovers. Mostly Filipinos in general are meat lovers. It's a long shot, but if we practice it day in and day out, baby steps, of course, baby steps, like what I said, um, we can, the baby steps will go a long, long way.
That's
We
great.
need to
All right.
educate them. We just need to educate them.
Everything is about education. We say that all the time. So,
Yes,
just really last question here, and it's a couple of them. One is there was a comment earlier about when does the world get better with this, pandemic? Um, Obviously, we're all, living, sort of a nightmare. Um, but I guess but frankly, I'm optimistic that we're going to see you know, the end
a better
is
world.
hopefully in sight. But yeah, but just real quickly, what's the status of the F&B business in the Philippines? How are things right now?
Like what the Koreans are saying, fighting. Filipinos are very resilient people. Filipino people are very resilient people. I think we get by watching Korean novellas. I'm kidding, but yes, there's half truth to it too. Um, what do you call it? Sorry, my thoughts were derailed. Okay, going back to your question, the F&B industry here is really fighting. For the lack of a better term, Filipino people are very resilient. I mean, in as much as in the beginning, some of us lost hope, but then the communities are helping each other. I think it's really more about helping the communities, buying your sources buying your produce from your neighbors in nearby barangays. That's a new word for you, Chris.
Yes, it is. That's my
Um,
word of the day.
supporting your friends. Actually, the F&B businesses are buying from each other. That's how we survive. That's how we thrive and survive. Basically, we help
Community.
each other. We buy from each other.
That's really
They
interesting.
buy from us, and then I buy from our supplier. I buy from our clients too. That's how we survive.
That's great. Well, Chef Michelle, before I thank you, I just want to say you have some real rock star sustainability warriors in the Philippines, and we'd love to connect you with some of them. Some of them have been guests here on this webcast before, but you have some real, very, very, very committed people in the Philippines. There's also a whole bunch of people who want to learn more about you and what you do and more about Filipino cuisine. So that's good. So you've sparked some interest in some people. But Chef, I want to thank you for taking the time out of your evening, I guess at this point, to join us. There's well over 100 people plus on this right now who are listening to your words, and hopefully we all walk away from this with one more thought, one more of like, maybe I could do that, or maybe I should think about getting more involved in hunger issues, or maybe I can apply my chef training and wisdom and skills to improving the lives of others, etc. And I know so many of us are already involved in that. And I would just end this by saying, it's all about the power of the white jacket or black jacket today. Okay. Um, but, we all have a responsibility. And, together, this global community that joins together once a month, we're here to support each other. And I think to end this, talking about what Michelle said about community, right? It's about the community that, in the Philippines, they support each other. And it's this community that we're here to support each other and continue the dialogue. So, Chef Michelle, a huge thank you for being with us today. And for
Can
everybody
I
who's,
have some? Sorry, can I say some
yeah,
parting words? Yeah,
of
because I
course,
forgot to say
please.
something. In line with sustainability, like what we talked about before, there is enough room for everybody's need, but not for everybody's greed. And we can only survive this pandemic, and it could only be sustainable if we just take whatever it is that we need. It's a long shot, but at the end of the day, we practice compassion, compassion for every single living thing. And if we practice that day in and day out, we'd understand and we'd put it to heart and we'd be able to, you know, go by our days without even thinking. It's going to be in our subconscious.
I love that. And that's a great way to end it. Chef Michelle, a huge thank you. And to Lynn, who's behind the scenes in Paris, who makes all this happen all the time. Thank you, Lynn. And to all of you who joined us today, thanks for taking time out of your day. Time is a precious gift, and we appreciate it. So, Chef Michelle, take care, and everybody else have a lovely rest of your day, afternoon, evening, and those of you in Australia, have the last glass of wine and go to bed.
Maraming
Bye.
salamat po.